Welcome to the AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Today, my guest is David O'Brien from Quantum5. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you. Thank you for coming into town today and coming to be on our show.
No, you ordered beautiful weather. It's all good.
You know what? You're lucky because Akron has some of the best weather around 5 days out of the year, and you got one of them.
I think I did, right? It was sunshine and 57 degrees when I drove here, so I'm in.
Yeah. You know, it snowed on Monday. It probably will again Friday.
Oh, boy. You guys are tough here. That's what it does. It builds toughness.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Well, hey, let's get started with just a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your career path that got you to where you are today with Quantum5.
Yeah, no. I got into this because I didn't have a choice, because I was born the son of a car dealer. Now, hang on though, right? Mine was not Papa had dealership. Mine was Papa had a desire to retire. My dad was 44 when I was born. I was the family oops.
Oh, yeah.
Brian. So I didn't have any brothers in the business. I had brothers, but none in the business. So I get out of college and I started in the retail car business. And after about 6 years, got an opportunity to join the learning and development side of retail. And from that to joining a company that got sold to getting to be part of the incredible original Pat Ryan and Associates, the original F&I company, where I learned about learning versus doing training, right? And being able to have these great folks around me that helped me learn how to do everything from large-scale OEM projects where you have to train 30, 40,000 people by the time the project's over, all the way through then starting my own business that was, okay, how do we do deeper learning around how dealerships find talent, keep talent, and build the strength of learning in their organization? Right? And that's what I was when COVID started. Mm-hmm. And as COVID started, I was listening to phone calls in dealerships. And I then saw an interview with a digital retailing CEO during COVID on LinkedIn. Remember, we all started to tune into LinkedIn to watch somebody had something to update us on?
Yeah.
And so I'm watching that, and he's advising dealers that they could get rid of salespeople. He's advising dealers to get rid of some of the managers and never bring them back. And he's talking about how service drives would convert to be kiosk driven, right? And so I'm listening, and as the guy who grew up with a dad who put everything into the car business as a dealer, I got frustrated. I mean, my friends will tell you I got mad that day, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason I got mad was I think my dad was one of the last generation that became a dealer and hadn't even finished high school. He went into World War II before he finished. The family story is he had a GED, but he loved the story that, no, I didn't. I got this far and never even finished high school. And so I started to think about, how are we going to keep salespeople, service people, and leaders in dealerships important in the buying process? And so Quantum5 was birthed out of that desire to create a people and technology approach that would allow learning to support people better than just doing a training event, doing a 2-day training event, doing a 1-day training event. Mm-hmm. How do we do it better? And so it was what is today my still love for cars. I'm a car geek, right? Which is why when we toured your building today, I was so excited looking around, because I'm still that guy in this business who loves cars, and I love our industry, and I want to see the people in it be able to do well through the changes.
Cool. You know, I like your point about, you know, that just the difference between training and learning. You know, like if Joe Burrow came to town and he gave me a full day of how to be a quarterback, and so I got the best teacher out there, I'd bet you I couldn't win a game. It's not something that you learn in a day. It's something that you learn over a lifetime.
And he's a great example, because even though he's learned it, right? What does Joe keep on his personal staff today? He's probably got a footwork coach, right? He's got a strength and conditioning coach. He's got probably a nutritionist or somebody who helps him with healthy eating, right? He probably has a mental coach who's there to help him with focus, blocking distraction, close out the noise of certain stadiums, right? And so what I love about what athletes show us is that reaching high levels of success doesn't mean you're weak, that you still keep coaches around you, that you still keep people who go, I want to invest in you. You can get a little better. Let's work on this. Let's work on this, work on this. And in automotive, I don't know what you notice, but what I always notice is we do an event, then we look to the managers and we look to the team and we go, good, you went to an event, now do it and keep doing it. And I was part of the problem, Brian. I did that too, right? And in the learning I brought, we would go do it and try to coach it. And quantum is the outgrowth of a lot of hard lessons, mistakes, and I'm old, so a lifetime of helping people with learning that says, yeah, no, we can find better ways. There are ways to do it better.
Yeah. Well, when I was very young, I went to a training when I was in the dealership. I went to a training for a few days, and I came back. And one of the worst things is you come back with all the ways you're supposed to do it, and yet nobody there is going to let you do it that way. So it's like so it's not just like a short-term event that changes everything. It's something that you have to address daily, and it has to be store-wide. You have to have the support of your managers.
Well, the managers, I remember the exact same stuff, right? My training was they sent me to Jackie Cooper, and Jackie Cooper taught me 10 different closes, right? And I went back and my manager says, Jackie Cooper teaches and we sell cars. So this is how you close a deal, right? So we lived in the same place. We just didn't know it, right? But we have to find better ways to incorporate leaders early. They're super busy, but we have to do better at bringing them into the fold because the leaders in automotive are talented people.
Yep, I agree. Let's talk about people, because people are one of the most important things, maybe the most important thing in every business. Why do car dealerships have such a problem holding on to people?
Yeah, I think it's complicated, right? It's several factors. It's not just an easy one. So you have some history of an industry that is challenged reputationally, right? None of the good stories get out as often as do the challenge stories, right? Then you have this commission-only life, which whether you're working for Mutual of Omaha selling insurance or whether it's cars, a commission-only life takes some runway. It takes the ability to get yourself going. It takes the ability to self-sustain tough times, good times, save a little money. And as an industry, we've never been great at that. And then you add in the final ingredient, which is we've always expected our leaders to do the training and the make sure our people become super successful. And at the same time, we give those leaders a list of daily activities. And we give them today a list of daily activities that's split by digital. I don't know how often your phone makes noise, but mine makes it a lot, and we pale in comparison to the phone noise that gets made in a car dealership. So we go, hey, you're the best at selling and servicing vehicles, Mr. Manager. Oh, we want you to be the best at training as well. Oh, and don't forget to answer all these emails, go in the CRM, check the auctions, and go outside and do all these other things. And I think today, the way the job works for leaders is that they're so overwhelmed, right? They're not lazy people. These are hardworking people, but the combination of digital, enter this, do this, check this, emails, CRMs, warranty claims administration, you name it, right? Combined with, I have a bunch of humans in my showroom and in my service drive, and I'm supposed to help them get better at the same time, something ends up giving, right? And I think the reason we lose people is, and you're in dealerships, you know what I mean. The person in our dealership is 25 years old, maybe married, maybe not married, probably living with a partner, spouse, something, maybe one kid. Everybody's hoping to get out of the apartment and into a house. And they come in every day and they go, okay, how do I make this work? And wait, I just heard an objection I never got before. And wait, my dealer wants me to sell more tires, but this customer said this. And the whole experience has moved to this omni-channel world, right? Where I have to learn how to communicate, build value, and build trust, not just in person, but I have to do it on a phone. I have to do it in an email. I have to do it in a text message. Now think of that 25-year-old in the showroom, or think of that 35-year-old in the showroom with a wife and 2 kids and a house payment, and they're looking at us going, how are you going to help me do all this? And it's hard. And therefore, that's what really continues to draw me to the idea that says we have to provide better ways if we want to change retention, right? We have to serve that person in the dealership better.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I agree. It's when I worked in a dealership, it was been a long time ago, but it was a hard job. And with all the dealerships that I've dealt with since then, I mean, I've never met a manager that wasn't the busiest guy that I've ever met, and it's they tend to spend most of their time putting out the fire that's burning the hottest, and that fire is usually not helping to develop their people. Right? Yep.
So one of the things I like to have them do, Brian, is I give them some paper, and I actually have them write down, okay, make me a list of all the things from the time you drive up to the time you leave that are digital. What takes up your day digitally? Okay, emails and 9 websites and OEM stuff and CRMs and appraising vehicles and warranty claims administration. I have to just go through it all, right? And I go, great, how many hours a day does it take? Just write the number down. Don't show me yet. I haven't written a number down. I go, great, how many things do you have to physically move around the dealership to do? Meetings, talking to a technician, talking to a sales team member, checking to make sure the inventory looks nice outside, right? How many physical things do you go do every day? And it won't surprise you that it's more than 24 hours a day, right? And so I look at them and I go, okay, look, nobody's here. Nobody's going to know the answer. Tell me what has to be sacrificed. What are you giving up when you look at this list every day? And the answer is always the same, something. Depending on the day, they have to give up many things. If that day their GM calls them and says, hey, there were 51 unfinished tasks in the CRM yesterday. Well, you know what they're focused on first thing this morning, right? Because they're about to assign even more tasks. If it's the dealer just came back from a 20 group meeting and calls the service manager and says, hey, just for the record, I was last in tire sales in the 20 group. I'd like not to be last anymore. Well, you know what they go work on, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's talking to the team, talking to the parts manager about how are we going to be more effective at tire sales? And so on any given day, so many things have give and take that I think we have to have a dialogue with dealers and GMs about the thing they often give up the most is, let me go sit with Brian. Let me do some role playing. Let me do some practicing. Let me help grow Brian so that he's more effective at the work he's going to do in my dealership. Add in all that omni-channel stuff again, and now I got to help Brian with emails and texts and phone calls, and there's so much stuff that the average service advisor or salesperson has to be really good at. I think it just gets complicated for people now.
Oh, I agree. You just recently completed a study, a research study, and you found that 36 months was kind of the magic number for retention. Can we talk about that? Like, what does that mean to a dealer? Like how do you get there? What does it mean when you do get there? And I guess at the end of the day, how does that affect the customer's experience when they're coming to the dealership to do business?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of data and accuracy. So let me start from the beginning for you, so that we have some context, right? So one of the things Quantum5 did in 2022 is we purchased another company. And that company was called ESI Trends, started by a great guy named Ted Crable 27 years ago. Ted is still with us. And ESI Trends was the gold standard for employee satisfaction measurement in automotive. And they were the gold standard to NADA because for 15 straight years, they do the back work on the NADA workforce study that's done every year. And so by having both sets of data, what Ted's been able to do, and now we want to talk to the industry about, is he was able to do the analysis that said there is a direct correlation between retention of employees and retention of customers. So intuitively we go, yeah, if everybody keeps leaving, the customer doesn't think we're as good a place. But now the math bears it out. The math bears out that on the service drive, there's an 84% correlation that when your service advisor team has a higher percentage that have been there 3 years or more, and it's really clear, there's an 84% correlation between customer satisfaction and customer retention. So again, intuitively we go, yeah, if my team has been there longer, people stay with me. But it's bigger. Think of what the service advisor does for a customer. That is the person that when you call says, Brian, I got you. Relax. No, I know it shouldn't be doing that. I'm putting a loaner aside for you right now. I got you. I'm taking care of you. Put your head on the pillow. Get the car here. I make this problem go away for you. And what happens is they don't have young, not in age, but young and experienced people practicing on that customer going, yeah, we haven't heard of that a whole lot. And yeah, I'm surprised yours doing it. You're going to have to leave it with us, but I'm not positive I'm going to be able to get a loaner because if it's not a warranty problem, you'll have to pay for the loaner. Yeah, when do you think you can bring it? I don't think we can touch it today. So think about it, right? That we don't have that person practicing like that. Instead, we have somebody who goes, I got you. And all of a sudden, even if my car had a few little things over my first 4 years of owning it, I forgive it because Brian answers my call. And Brian goes, I got you. Now, with the addition of looking at some of the NADA workforce study data, here's the other thing you can find, is that when that same service advisor retention number, today, only 46% of advisors in America are at their dealership for 3 or more years. Wow. 46. If we push that number up, if we kept more to past the 3-year period, there's a direct impact on gross profit per employee. So again, intuitively, dealerships, higher retention, specifically of the service advisor. I got 6. 5 of them have been there 3 years or more. My gross profit per employee across the store is higher than Dave's Chevrolet, who has only 2 that have been there 3 or more years. And the rest are practicing on customers. So I think that as an industry, I say to dealers all the time, you'll laugh when you do this. I go in dealerships and I go to see our clients and I go, by the way, where's the list in your pocket? And they go, where's the list in your pocket of every employee who's been here at least 18 months, but not 36 yet? Because I think every dealer ought to have that list in their pocket. I think every GM ought to have that list in their pocket. Because if I see somebody in my dealership, I don't want to just say, hey, how are you? I'm glad you're here. Thank you. I want to look at my list and go, Brian's been here 31 months. I need to go give Brian a hug. I need to buy Brian coffee. I need to have an important, transparent conversation about how important his being here means to our dealership. Because if I get Brian from 31 to 36 months and further and further and further, my customer retention changes, my UIO changes, my gross profit per employee changes. So why don't I know their names is what I always say.
That's a neat idea. I mean, what is that? What is the transparent conversation? Is it like, what do you need? How can I help you? Do you need some training, or is it just a heart to heart? Like, how's your family doing, or what does that look like?
I think what employees say is, and again, I'm going to go to the data, right? When we look at the Net Promoter Score information, right? One of the questions in any Net Promoter Score environment is, we ask them the question, are you considering, thinking about, or planning to leave the dealership in the next 6 months? And then we ask them to give us the verbatims about why, if they said yes. So when you look at that list, what you find are things, money's on the list. It's generally second or third, not first. Usually first is going to be things like communication. Usually first is going to be things like dealership culture, the way my leader connects, communicates, and treats me. And I think what they don't like is they don't like artificial communication. They don't like when that GM walks through service and says, good morning, everybody, good morning, good to see you. They are looking for a little bit of what you described, which is the investment of a couple of minutes that says, by the way, we actually care about you, the individual being here. We actually want to make this a great workplace for you. Talk to me. Are there roadblocks in your way? Is there something we should be thinking about? Is there something we have to be doing different? What do you need? What should I hear? And welcoming the kind of feedback that across the generations in today's dealership, it's going to be different, right? You're just going to hear different things, and they want to talk to us about it.
Let's dive a little deeper. Let's talk techs. I'd like to talk techs. I would struggle to think that there's even a single dealership in the United States that has enough, or as many as they would like to have. Everybody is starving for technicians, and I don't know that there's a solution in sight or enough of them in school, to fill the needs. What can dealerships do to attract, and retain technicians?
Yeah, it's another complicated problem with many pieces, right? So let's start simple from the dealership perspective. We can't control that high schools are telling more people to go to college and less people to go to trade schools. We can't control it. We can try and get involved in our community and influence it. But if you focus as a general manager and a service director in your dealership, the first thing you have to commit to with technicians is, let's retain the ones we have. So I encourage everybody, you should be surveying that fixed operations department twice a year. You should be understanding and listening to the technicians. You should be creating cross-functional groups inside fixed ops that says, how do we make this better? How do we make this better? How do we make this better? Right? And when you do that, they don't ask for crazy things. Oh, they joke around and they go, could you build a gym so that we could work out on our lunch hour? You get some crazy. But most of what you hear is, can we figure out how to have the advisors ask better questions? And cross-functional groups then come together, and all of a sudden the advisors go, well, what questions would be better? And now you give them the questions, and the technicians participate, and people are in things together. So the number one thing is, I start with gather some data, survey the store, understand what you got. Number two, I think you have to make recruitment an all the time, all year round practice. It can't be, I lost a tech, or I think I might need one in the spring, therefore I'll start to take some action. You actually have to build a brand at the dealership that is, I'm going to have my tentacles in the trade schools. I'm going to schedule visits to trade schools throughout the year. I'm going to have a brand that shows why we are uniquely a better culture. I'm going to talk to them about, we have cross-functional groups where techs and parts department and service advisors work together to create better outcomes and more teamwork. And it's more than a cookout, right? And so I think as you make it an all the time process, all of a sudden the pressure gets a little bit easier. And lastly, I think you have to have a mentality that says, I'm going to start to look at the future and I'm going to find ways to get more flexible. I don't know what the answer to this is, but we have to get more flexible about things like What do the hours and shifts look like? How many days a week do I work? What days of the week do I work? How am I going to give this generation coming into automotive more flexibility? Because if we don't, the technician problem is the tip of the spear. It's going to get worse, but there's a lot of other more problems that are going to come up. That makes sense?
Oh, absolutely. I don't see people being willing to work the hours that the car business used to have. I mean, 6 days a week and one Sunday a month, or like some of the craziness that they expect from people. I have a son who's a finance manager, and he has 2 days off a week, and I think boy, that's wonderful. Like he has Wednesday and Sunday, and that hasn't always been the way things were.
No, I don't know why it was harder in the old days to find the flexibility. I think in today's environment, what your son is experiencing, and I have a son almost the same age as yours, who was also in the business, and he had a dealer who gave him flexibility. We've always given high performers flexibility. What I love seeing is we're building in some of the ways that it can be permanent flexibility. But let's change for a second. Your son's a finance manager. How do we do that for a service advisor is harder. How do we do that for a technician is harder, right? Because we've trained our customers for 100 years. When your car does something crazy, call us, make an appointment. We're here Monday through Saturday, 7 in the morning till 6 p.m., we fix your car. And so now, if I have 5 service advisors, how do I let one have a weekday off? How many of them are going to want to work Saturdays? What does that look like? How do I get more technicians to be willing to work 4-day work weeks, but maybe we have a rotation around what Saturdays are included for some people, right? We just are going to have to think about it. And we're going to have to, and service is going to be harder than sales. In sales, they've got a CRM app on their phone from Vin Solutions, Dealer Track, or somebody. They can actually make calls to customers that are recorded from the app on their phone. Service advisor, I actually kind of got to be here, because if the technician calls me and then I have to call a customer and get an approval, and that's far more complicated and is going to take more creativity. There's great dealers finding the creativity, right, to give that breathing room. Ed Roberts, Bozart Ford, he's finding creative, innovative ways. He's got 10 mobile service trucks on the road. Breathing room, less pressure on the in-store shop, more ways to get flexible because they're busy 5 days a week out on the road servicing vehicles too. So I think the innovation will come. It just has to come faster, or we're going to keep losing people that we didn't want to lose.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the service advisor. I know you have a strategy that involves teams. I'd love to hear more about it. And could you share with our audience, what you envision in a team situation?
Well, keep in mind I'm an observer, right? So I'm a guy who goes and I because I touch so many dealerships a year, and because our team touches thousands of dealerships a year, right? I listen to what comes back, and then when I hear something innovative, I go, okay, so I want to go visit that dealership because I want to understand more, right? And so recently, as I watched a dealership group start to go, okay, I have to fix flexibility for service advisors, because they do buy into the I need 3 and more years retention. I want to fix turnover in advisors just as much as I want to fix it in my sales team. Okay, so they said, why can't we have advisors work in a team of 3? 1 mans the quick lane, 2 of them man the main drive, and why can't we give them different shifts that would all cover how we take care of customers in both the quick lane and the main drive? Well, in today's dealership environment, right, when you say that to a group of service advisors, they're like, well, Brian's not as good at selling as me. I don't want my income to be a hostage. And the quick lane person, they're too inexperienced. There's no way my income could be a hostage to that. They can't call back my customer about the multi-point inspection results. This dealer was able to find a way to break through that by creating some innovation in the pay plan that weighted it the way it should. They created some performance incentives for all three, but they also created a culture where they said, talk to us. What matters most? Do you want the extra flexibility in your life while still having a great job? Or do you want to have this, I'm going to make the most money, I only trust myself environment, but you're not going to see your kids as much. You're not going to get to go fishing when you want to get off at 4:00 and you could go get 3 hours of fishing in, right? What do you want? And they listened. And they let the employees talk to each other in groups about, what do we want? What do we want? What do we want our culture here to be? Because here's what you know. If you have happy employees that have figured out how to create that teamwork, the customers that Brian talks to from 7 in the morning till 4:00 before he gets in his car to go fishing, they met a happier Brian because Brian knew today was the day he ended early, but that his teammates had his back, but that he'd be fishing by 4:30. Mm-hmm. He was happier with every customer. And the person that was going to stay till 7 was fine because they went to their kid's spring thing at the school in the morning and they saw their kid in a little play for spring something, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think as dealers work with their teams, as they listen to them, as they go, tell us what you want, here's what we need. We need to be able to service the customers we have and more across a Monday through Saturday environment. But how could we get there and give you all flexibility? That's the interesting question, right? The same with technician 4-day work weeks. How could we do that? What do you all want? What would it do for your lives? And when you do it and you work on those culture aspects, it's been the best thing we've learned from Ted at ESI is go solve some of those culture impacts. 60 of Automotive News best places to work for last year, car dealerships, right, are our client. Well, we're not the reason that they're the 60 best places to work for, right? But the reason they're the best place to work for is they're surveying their people twice a year. Whoever they want to use, fine. But you have to go get into the culture data of your people and go, I have to make this a great workplace. And we have to do it everywhere in automotive, I think. I don't know. Yep. Sounds like your son's found a place that's doing that, right? Now, what if we could do it across 17,000 locations, right?
Yep. I mean, everybody would prefer to work at a place where they enjoy it a little bit more. I mean, nobody wants to be, patting heads all the time.
Mm-hmm. That's for darn sure. Yeah.
What I'd like to do is jump from the back of the building to the front of the building. Let's get back to variable.
It's a big wall in some dealerships, right?
Yeah, it is. You got to really jump.
You got to really get across that wall. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so cars are coming back, like the inventories are returning. And, for a long time, especially if for people that haven't been in the business 36 months, they may not remember lots that were full of cars. I mean, people that have been just gotten in the business. Are salespeople ready? Are some of the managers ready? Do they remember how to handle objections and how to deal with the competition that will be back? I mean, when every dealer has more cars than they're going to sell this month, it's going to be the Wild West again. Are our people ready?
Simple answer, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than if we had spent 3 years and the world had told us, eat all the chocolate chip cookies you want, you won't gain any weight. Mm-hmm. We would have ate chocolate chip cookies. We would have gained 30 pounds. And at the end, we'd have gone, okay, so now what do I do? How do I get back into my physical shape that I was in before I ate all those chocolate chip cookies? Mm-hmm. And they've lived in an environment now. And I want to make this really clear, right? It's not because anybody was bad, lazy, weak. There are consultants out there talking about how we let people get lazy and weak. Hey, look, We had people who responded to a market. They responded to a market by treating customers good enough that they paid more than list price. They did a lot of good things. But what happened is the market's changed again. And now you do have people who never learned how to handle an objection via email.
Mm-hmm.
You have people who've never learned how to write a great email other than to say, yes, I can get you one. Do you want to put your name on an order list? So we have to go back and retrain these folks on the rock solid habits. I call it, let's just be brilliant at basics of creating customer experience. And if we take them back, they'll adapt quickly because they have the need to. Mm-hmm. There's customers coming in going, you've got a Pathfinder. I've seen 2 others that I like. Talk to me about this one. And you have to be, okay, on my A game. I got to be ready for any objections. I've got to build value in this customer today. And for us, bottom line is, they've got to learn how to be an advocate, because one thing COVID taught customers, not just taught our teams, they taught customers we're flexible. Mm-hmm. You want to drive the car at your house? No problem. You want me to give you a trade value before you come in? No problem. So we taught the customer that we had flexibility they never thought we had.
Yeah.
And Brian, in today's environment, okay, it's a little more competitive. If we start to pull that stuff away, taking the widgets off our website, changing the way we explain things that makes us sound less flexible as a dealership, okay, they're going to the other Pathfinder. They're going to look at the other Lexus. Mm-hmm. They're not going to stay with us. So again, we just got to make the effort to get them brilliant at the basics. We've got to get the good people of automotive to keep the customer experience up, but now be prepared for the challenges that come with price competition and availability competition.
Well, I want to stay in variable for a minute. A common theme of just about every topic we've discussed has been digital and email and the change in customer expectation and giving a trade value in advance, without them coming in. Why do salespeople still work ding to dong? I mean, is it necessary? Is it going to stay that way? And why is that the case? And are walk-ins even a thing anymore?
Yeah, so the simple answer is, I don't know why we make them work the long hours anymore. Mm-hmm. The flow of business in our dealership, the analytics and the predictability exist. We know when we're going to have people show up. Yep. We know how many service waiters we schedule every day. We have the data. I think we're going to have to help with flexibility on this side around scheduling too. But the technology exists for them to do their job well, even when we give them flexibility that doesn't exist on the fixed side. I think what I see in these salespeople is that this omni-channel stuff, none of us ever expected when you and I sold cars, we'd never expected I'd have to build trust by doing 7 or 8 emails. And if you talk to salespeople, they go, you have no idea how many emails I do before they show up, right? We're just communicating back and forth. You have no idea how many text messages I do before I get them to show up, because we're just going back and forth about things. Mm-hmm. And you say to them, so how do you get them to trust you? And they go, I don't really know. I try though. You go, how do you build a relationship? So they go, you treated me better than other places, but they can't see you yet. They go, I really don't know how I do it. I just keep trying. And so I think we have to broaden the range. I watch some of the training and consulting all over LinkedIn and Facebook. I saw some this morning that was talking as if everybody was coming back face to face. And you talk to people in dealerships and they go, oh no, even though we have inventory, it's much like it was during COVID. They know I will do a lot of work without them coming here. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole new set of skills that have to be sharpened, just like you said with Joe Burrow. It's got to be every day, though. It can't be one and done, and we think they're going to remember.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Joe Burrow, he eats healthy every day. He works out every day. He probably talks to those coaches every day.
Amen.
Somehow we got to beat Patrick Mahomes this year, right?
Oh man, now you're setting lofty goals, but I'm sitting in Akron, Ohio, so I'm going to say yes, sir, you will.
Well, we beat him 3 out of the last 4 times. So,
Woo!
yeah. So, final question: is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience today?
No, not necessarily, Brian. I think what our passion is at Quantum, right? We internally refer to it as we're on a cause, we're on a mission, right? And our mission is, let's start making learning individual to the people in automotive. Mm-hmm. Let's not make it some weapon that the OEM hits them upside the head with and says, do these things or you're not certified. Let's make training fun. Let's make learning an everyday personalized element. Mm-hmm. There's 1.2 million people in those dealerships. There's 374,000 just in the showrooms of dealerships across America. Those jobs don't have to go away. ChatGPT ain't going to replace somebody doing a great walk around. You and I were talking about walk arounds. Yep. It ain't going to replace that. And the great news is the customer has voted with their dollar for 3 years. They still, 87% of the time, call a dealership, make an appointment. They come look at a car with a salesperson before they go. We just got to take care of those people.
Yep. I mean, I talk to people, and it seems it's the same as it's always been, is that more people come in and leave in the car that they didn't come to get than the car they came to get. And so without a salesperson, you would never find that out. And so I agree with you. You know, some people are ready to buy online, but most of us aren't.
Yeah. And we can't service the car online, so
not yet. Right?
And it still takes a great advisor going, I got you. You can breathe. I will make this better for you. I got you. And you put that combination together in the front and back of a dealership, customers don't leave. They stay.
Yeah. Well, Dave, thank you. This has been a great time. Thank you very much. Today's guest has been Dave O'Brien from Quantum5. I'm your host, Brian Ankney. Thank you for watching this AutoSuccess Executive Spotlight. Hope to see you again soon.